First thing is roll call.
Mayor Pro Tem Hand,
Here.
Councilmember Jones,
Here.
Councilmember Broadway,
Here.
Councilmember Polak,
Present.
Councilmember Matthews,
Present.
Councilmember Aycock.
Here.
Okay, we're all here, we have a quorum. The next thing on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. And before we make a motion to adopt, I would like to add a closed session that we undertake immediately after adoption of the agenda to discuss economic development, potential litigation, and personnel. Any other additions, changes, or deletions to the agenda? If there are none, I have a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. Entertain a motion to go into closed session at this time.
I'll make a motion, we go into closed session for economic development, possible litigation, and personnel.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay. Okay, and how did you label it, Ron?
Economic development?
Just economic development?
I would just I've just labeled that
Okay.
involving the location of the hotel on the city's property by the Maxwell Center.
We're back on.
Okay. We have additions to the agenda, motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Well, did you mention the amendment here? You want to amend item L?
Well,
Or add item
I
L?
said as amended, but I'll be more specific.
Yeah.
To amend the agenda, adding item L under items requiring individual action, economic development, the hotel proposal as submitted by the county with the monetary reduction in the wastewater bill of $70,000.
I think you can make that part of the motion when that's done, but as far as the agenda item's concerned, you just want to add an item to the agenda to discuss the location of the hotel
Okay.
and the amount of property and the other conditions with regards to that agreement that's going to be located at the Maxwell Center.
Okay, and then I'll try to rephrase that again. Add item L under items requiring individual action, the location of the hotel at the Maxwell Center, any other items associated with that.
I think that's sufficient enough, and then when you
Okay.
get to there, you can discuss it, and somebody can make the very specific motion that needs to be made.
Okay. Or any other discussion items, items that we need to discuss on the agenda, add, delete? Okay, we have a motion, a second.
Do we have that?
Yes, sir.
You did.
Okay. I just thought, if we had it before you discussed
Okay.
exactly what
And
it's
we
going to
have-
be, I'd prefer that you do another motion and another second, just for the
Okay.
record and for Ms. Capps.
All right.
So, Councilmember,
I make a motion that we approve the amended agenda with the necessary revisions made stated by Mayor Pro Tem
and item L,
and in item L.
Second.
Thank you.
take a vote.
Okay, motion's been made and second. All in favor of the changes, raise your hand. Thank you. Finally. Okay. We're at item 3, old business. First item is council committee's GWTA appointment discussion. We do have there is an opening on the GWTA board to replace Mr. Waller. And at this time,
I'll make a motion that we appoint Councilwoman Jones to fill that position.
Second.
we have a motion to appoint Councilwoman Jones to that position, and a second. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor, raise your hand, please. You can vote for yourself, too. Okay. Motion is adopted. The public comment period, that was an issue.
One second, sir. Were you able to appoint someone to the
Oh, I'm sorry.
Law and Finance
Yeah.
Committee?
Yep, I'm sorry.
I'll
There
make
is a
motion.
position on the Law and Finance Commission. That's a commission that rarely meets. I've been on it now 5.5 years. It's met one time to waive some interest on a property that we were given to Habitat. So we have, that position became vacant with previous council member leaving. So I would entertain a motion to replace or to fill that vacancy.
I make a motion that we fill the vacancy of Law and Finance Committee
With who?
with,
Are you naming someone?
no, I'm just making a motion that we do it. We
Okay.
need to do it. And,
Would you amend it? Would you amend it to say Councilman Polak?
yes.
Yeah.
Sir?
Would you serve on that committee? Like I said, it never meets.
I'm on the historic and the Parks and Recs right now, so I'm kind of
Well, you can serve on more than just
It
two.
doesn't, it very rarely meets.
Okay, well, they,
During my tenure, before he was us, we met one time. So in the
okay.
last
I
10
just
years,
wanna-
we met twice.
I just don't wanna get over my head and.
Yeah,
No, you ain't gotta
it
worry
wouldn't-
about that.
It wouldn't put,
We've had-
it wouldn't put
absolutely.
too much on your
We've
plate.
had one meeting in 5 years.
Oh, okay, I'll serve in that
Yeah.
capacity. What nights, well. I
It doesn't
guess I
ever
pick-
meet.
They
It
don't
meets,
know.
I can
Okay.
discuss it with you.
Okay, thank you.
They don't know.
Just
there's
under
no-
certain circumstances if necessary.
Okay,
It's just required to
Yeah,
have it.
I'll serve.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion to,
I'll second.
a second. Any discussion? All in favor of, the motion to appoint, Councilman Pollitt to the Law and Finance, raise your hand, please. Okay. All righty. Next item is the Coronavirus Relief Fund presentation.
Okay, we'll get Octavius up here.
Aren't we gonna do public comment?
Well, she's not in here.
Oh,
well, we've got a quorum.
Yes, but the public comment period discussion was a request from Relief Councilwoman Matthews who just stepped out. So if you want to skip that item to later or take it off the agenda.
Well, we'll take it off the agenda until, if she's not coming back.
I don't know.
Let's leave it on and see if she comes back before it
Okay.
gets to it. If she's not back by the time we get here, we take it off the agenda.
Okay. So we're ready for the next item, C, Coronavirus Relief Fund presentation. Octavius, can we get the slides up? Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, Council, staff.
Good evening.
Tonight, I will update you on the Coronavirus Relief Fund. We'll start out. We'll start off with the council-approved expenditures for the city of Goldsboro. First, with PPE, it was, the council approved $36,363. Payroll expenses, $196,692. Payroll health measures, $387,737. Included in that number is $150,000 for broadband. That's for IT, install fiber optics to our water towers. And they now have a contract with the broadband providers, so we're in pretty good shape headed forward. It also includes 6 terminal cameras installed, one here in the City Hall Annex building, 2 in one in Herman Park, one in W.A. Foster, one in Police and Fire, and in Goldsboro Event Center and Paramount Theater. At our last meeting, we reported that some of the cameras were not functional. Today, we have all of the standalone cameras, which are direct hookup. They are functioning properly. We have 2 cameras that are, I call, advanced technology. We're using iPads to drive those. Those are not where they need to be, but as I understand it, they will be installed properly. The software will be installed properly over the next couple of weeks. So we should have all 6 cameras up and running. In the way of public economic support, you approved $100,000 for the for-profit small business owners. Public Works Department, $45,897,000 for environmental services. You also approved grants to nonprofit organizations up to $200,000. So as we look further into details with the public economic support, the goal was to award 30 grants. We awarded 19 grants at $57,500. We have a remaining balance of $42,500. Know that these grants were awarded to small business owners with less than 20 employees. They had to be they had to reside inside the county of Wayne, and the business had to be within the city limits of Wayne County. They had to have at least one other employee other than the principal itself. So we're proud of this accomplishment, but know that the 42,000, 500,000, we as a committee are still meeting to try to come up with an idea to award these additional funds. So note that that is happening.
Mr. Murphy,
Yes.
do we have a listing of the grants or the businesses that were awarded the money for our own
Absolutely.
record? that
Yes,
we
sir.
could- Okay.
I'll gladly provide you that list. We have not made this list of for-profit business owners public.
Okay.
But yes, we do have that information available. And what has helped the city of Goldsboro regarding awarding these grants is on December 27th, President Trump signed an executive order to extend the date from December 30, 2020 to December 31st, 2021. So we have more time to award these funds. So that makes it easier, better for the business owner as well.
I tell you, there being repetitive awards, there potentially being repetitive awards from this 42,000.
Well, that's not
When I say
something.
repetitive, I'm talking about to the businesses.
Yeah. So, if I understand you correctly, you're asking, would we consider the same business owners?
Yes.
For the same funding? Maybe. That's something, because we've offered it for months to all small business owners who meet a certain criteria. Well, we didn't get as many as we'd like, so that is a very real possibility. If that's something that you would consider, you would first have to approve that. So,
These funds can be spent up till December 31st of this year.
that's correct. So, as far as the funds to the non-profit organizations, the 200,000 that were allotted, I tell you, this is really good information. Of the 200,000, we have allotted all but $3,879.31. That's great news. That's $200,000 back into our community for the benefit of funding feeding programs, homelessness, public utilities, paying for those, paying for rent. This is a direct impact on the city of Goldsboro, and hats off to you guys, because every community didn't do what you did. It would have been easy to write a check for $966,000 back into our payroll expense and call it a day, but you decided the best use for this is not only to go throughout the different departments, but to go back into our community, and that's to be commended.
And the numbers in green, that's the amount that was actually paid from receipts that they turned in?
The amount in green is the remaining
Oh, the remaining
balance.
balance, okay.
Yeah, the zero says that wages received 40,000 cash from the city of Goldsboro. Salvation Army, 40,000 cash, et cetera, et cetera. So the only monies that have not been expended is the 3,800 out of 200,000. That's a powerful statement. And we still have through December 31st, 2021 to get that out. So it's a good report. I'm pleased to report that we are continuing to meet needs in our community. Any questions? Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Matthews, while you were out, we skipped over the public comment period. I believe that's something that you wanted to speak to. Is that correct? Okay.
The majority made the decision to reduce the public comment to once a month. If I am not mistaken, you did it on the contingency of COVID. And now that restrictions are lifted, we now are welcoming people back into the chambers. When you made the decision then, you said it was something we would revisit. You said that it was temporary. So I think now is good a time as ever to go back to how we've done our public comment, which is allowing the public to come and speak twice a month instead of once a month.
Are you proposing a motion to that effect?
Yes.
I make a motion, we accept that. I have a question though, before we extend. With our once a month, I think we're going to 35 minutes. Will we reconvene back to the 3 minutes, or what's your proposal? If we do 2, will we still have 5 minutes per person at 7? Or will we go back to how we initially were with 3 minutes? What's your recommendation for that?
I didn't have a recommendation, but I mean, if we just go back to how we've done
How we used to
things.
be? So, okay.
Okay, I have some discussion about that. Our Rule 37 says that we are in appliance with the one public meeting, but I understand, I wrote these things down, that our constituents should have the opportunity to add all their concerns, and that it gives us exposure to the city council. In the past, our public meetings, to me, my humble opinion, have not been productive. So if we go back to, I have no problem, but if we go back to the 2 times a month, that we come up with some guidelines. I really think that whoever is speaking should submit their grievances ahead of time so that they can be recorded, so that we can handle whatever grievance or concerns that they have, so that will be on documentation and we can take care of those things. And what that does is that reduces the redundancy. A very good example is Councilwoman Matthews, you asked a question at our work session, and you asked how are we going to get these students for this fund? You asked that question. I had that in my brain to ask, but since you asked it, that was redundancy. So there was no need for me to ask it. Mr. Polite, Councilman Polite, you asked a question about the potholes. And I had a question about a pothole on Carolina Street.
Yes, ma'am.
But you had already asked that. So there was no need for me to ask the same question. This is what I'm asking of this council. My desire is for the public comments to be productive, and that we be able to take care of every issue. So in the past, I understand that the person that's going to speak comes and signs up. We have no idea what they're going to speak about. I think that there should be some structure and knowing what they're going to speak about. Our secretary can record it. If there are main issues, then we need to address those issues. And we need to come back, we need to talk with those individuals that have those issues. So if we're gonna go back to public meetings, which like I said, we are within the guidelines with the one, and I was not here when you guys decided to go with the one, and it was temporary. So if we're gonna go back with the 2, let us come up with strategies and guidelines so that our council meetings will be productive and that everyone will be treated with respect and diplomacy.
So we have a public comment policy that I don't think we followed even in times past before I came along. So
Okay.
we do have that policy, and I think we should enforce that when it comes to public comment. The only thing is, I don't want to go into this situation where we're limiting voices, because me personally, if there's an issue that's on the table, I mean, if a resident has not seen the agenda, or they just happen to wanna attend a meeting, or they're watching online and they're like, oh man, I wanna get to the council meeting to talk about that, to let my voice be heard, they don't have time to sign up. And it would.
Well, see, if, okay, let's say you want to talk about an issue and I want to talk about an issue. And you're already here and you follow the guidelines and you already signed up with what you're going to talk about. Okay, well, when I get here, I see, well, oh, Ms. Matthews is going to talk about this. Well, let me sit in. And if for some reason that you do not cover what she wanted to cover, then we need to make a way or come up with strategies that will be covered as well. And it makes us just be more structured. And what everybody has to say, all of our constituents are important. And everything that they have to, because that's why we're here. We wouldn't be here without them. But to be redundant, I think it is a waste of y'all's time and a waste of the constituents' time. When we can address those things if we know what we're talking about. I don't want to limit that either. That is not my purpose for saying that.
Well, I want to be clear, it doesn't waste my time, because if that's truly what we're here for, and we have something in the policy, and I don't want to quote it because I don't think I'm going to quote it quite right, but we talk about if there's one particular issue and there's multiple people in the room for that issue, that, and I don't know how that works, but we have something in place that speaks to what you're talking about, that should take care of that issue, but doesn't really have any effect on if they're saying it once a month or twice a month, because we have something in place. That's why I said we as a board need to make sure we're enforcing our own policies, because we haven't been doing that.
Okay.
So if we enforce our policy, it'll eliminate the exact problem I think that you're talking about with the redundancy, because something
Okay.
speaks to
Well,
that.
it wouldn't, there is a policy, we'll make sure you have it, but when it comes to a group, if you had 5 people that wanted to come speak, only 2 people can speak for that
Okay,
group, right?
okay.
But if there's several different groups that come, or several
Okay.
different people that come on a particular subject, we don't limit that, and I don't think
Yeah.
you can limit that, because
Yeah.
that's why it's public comment. You may get different perspectives on that particular issue from
Yeah.
different people.
Yeah.
Well,
Ron might wanna
I
comment to it,
think
but-
that we should take a look at our strategies for our public meetings and make sure that every voice is heard and that we record their problems and their grievances. And in order to do that, I don't think that we can vote on it tonight. I think we need to look at those policies, amend them if we can, and then come back with that.
I would recommend that have the clerk send out the old policy and the new policy, and you can take a look and decide how you want to do it. It does have some rules regarding spokespersons, as was discussed.
I'll agree to that.
And then I think there was time limits, and the time limit then also would sort of limit how long you could have 40 people talk about the same thing, or when I say the same thing.
Yeah, because if we're
Obviously-
gonna go back
Okay.
to 2 meetings, then the time would change.
So take a look at it, and each of you take a look and see what kind of recommendations you want. And if you'll let me know the recommendations you want, I can make sure that it's not something that's gonna violate the Constitution, because there are free speech issues as to, what you can limit or can't limit. And so that's why most public comment period policies are fairly open, and most of the time they're fairly liberally imposed. And that's why I think in the past, some people went over time. It took 5 people talking about the same thing. I think it was because the council, y'all have wanted to let people be heard.
Right.
And so, but you can put some restrictions like
And
the
I
time that you
totally
have.
agree. I want this made perfectly clear that it is important that every constituent voice their issue. I want to make that clear.
So clerk, you can send out both policies, then y'all can take a look at them, have a chance to look at them, see what kind of changes you want to make, and go back to 2 times a month. We'll talk about the time period people can talk, or how much time period, or anything else. Then we can come back and we can discuss it. And if we know it's going to be on the agenda, then bring whatever your questions are that I might have a legal issue to talk about in regard to what kind of restriction, if you have a restriction that you want to place on it. The statute's fairly liberal as far as what it says, and it just says reasonable restrictions. No, you know, reasonable is a great word. Lawyers love it because it creates a bunch of litigation.
But I did want to be in order. I did make a motion to reconvene back to 2 meetings a month. So with that motion still standing on the floor, can we, since we have a public comment period tonight, we won't, as it stands now, have another one till the 1st of May? Would that be a reasonable amount of time to come up with the kinks and things that we need to iron out and still go along with having the 2 month?
She needs to withdraw.
Still go back to having the 2 meetings a month and have all the things ironed out by the May 1st meeting, but still go along with the motion that I have on the floor that we go to 2 meetings a month. Because I did make that motion.
Did you make,
I made the motion.
didn't
She brought it up.
I thought you made the motion to have.
Yeah, you made the motion.
You made the motion and he seconded it. So he
No.
made
She
the,
brought
No,
up,
no,
she
no.
brought up the conversation.
Okay.
And I made the motion to
Okay.
go along with what
It
she
was kind of
said.
happening at the same
Right.
time we was making the
So,
motion. I don't think the
you-
motion should be withdrawn. I think we should
No, I'm
follow
not
through
withdrawing.
with the motion.
Right.
I think we have substantial information. We can't say in one breath that we want to hear everybody, and then in the second breath, put any type of stipulation. Because if Sue Ann Joey, and I hope that's nobody's name, because I'm not pinpointing anybody, if Sue Ann Joey comes and speaks about ditches, and Brandy Matthews wants to come talk about ditches, now I can't talk about ditches because Sue and Susie just talked about ditches. That's not hearing my voice. So we can't say, and that was one issue that I had with the former council, is how can you say that you don't want to hear people, like you don't have the time, but then we say that's why we're here. You know, we already put a timestamp on how long the public comment is gonna be, okay? But we reduced it for one particular reason, and now I'm hearing we don't want to go back for a whole nother set of reasons. So I don't think the motion should be withdrawn. I'm actually gonna second it, Councilmember Collette.
Okay, the motion has been made to resume twice.
may I
Excuse
say
me.
something? I think that we need to take a look, if we're going to agree to have it 2 times a month, then I think that we need to agree on how we're going to have it. And as I said previously, I think that we all want to hear what our constituents say. My concern is I want it to be structured and diplomatically. That is my concern.
Councilman Pollock, are you amenable to amending your motion and to give more specific detail?
So to clarify, my motion is to have 2 meetings a month, and between now and our first meeting in May, like I said earlier, to iron out all of the stipulations
So
or whatever.
we're gonna meet on
approving-
how.
Right.
Okay, we're
Between
gonna
now
go with
and
the 2 meetings, but
going
we're
back to
gonna
2
talk
meetings.
about how it's
the
done.
quorum or whatever else
Okay.
can be put on the table for
All
how
right,
we
I
want to
can,
discuss it.
mhm.
Are you going to specify the times per speaker?
I think
that's what we
that
can
would
work
come
out.
in with our
Okay,
strategies.
all right,
Right, right.
okay.
I'm not gonna.
So the issue is just twice a month,
Right.
right? And you second it?
And I understand.
What is the motion? Cause
start May.
I'm seconding the motion to have our public comment twice a month. That's what my second was for. If that's not the motion, I'm going to withdraw my second, cause that's what I made a second to.
Right.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second.
We need a clarification.
Clarify the motion.
Clarification, did Councilman Polak, did you want that to be twice a month beginning May?
Correct.
Okay, that's what,
Yeah,
you're
because
trying to make
our
sure,
first-
if it's
our-
twice a month, then we'd have another
Right, we
meeting
can't
coming up in
enact it
April.
now because, I mean, tonight is.
We
our
just want to make
public
sure that was
comment
clear,
period.
that it was
That's right.
twice a month beginning in May.
Right. And that'll give us enough time for whatever discussion we have between now and then. But the motion is to have reconvene back to 2 meetings starting May 1st. Well, make the first meeting.
2 public comment
Right.
periods, okay. So clerk just want to make sure she understood,
Okay.
and everyone's going to start till May.
Right.
We
Is
don't
that
know
the
what-
motion you seconded, Councilwoman Matthews?
But right now, we don't know what structure it's gonna go under. Are we gonna go back to 3 minutes and 30 minutes? Or are we gonna stay
It
at
would
5
be-
minutes and
Unless-
35 minutes?
Unless you change it, it would be what was last approved, which was 5-minute periods up to 35 minutes total, if I remember correctly.
I'm sorry, that's not part of the motion.
No, sir.
Right.
That's not part of it.
Sorry.
Just answering a question.
Right, okay.
But I
sorry.
believe that Councilmember Polak's intent is for you guys to discuss it maybe at the next meeting.
Right.
And this gives you 2 weeks to think about and share with Ron what you would like
Right.
included in that policy.
Correct,
Is that right?
correct.
Can you do it before the meeting?
I don't
Before the
think so.
May
It
meeting,
helps
right?
me out if you send me an email before the meeting, so I can research it, because otherwise, if it's thrown at me at the meeting, I may not be able to give you an answer. Right then, I have to say, I gotta get back to you. You know, then we're delaying it again, because I don't know what the specific thing is you're wanting to add, and I can't test it by either the statute or taking a look at school government blogs, you know, which just a minute ago when it was brought up about limiting people and how many people can talk about what they're gonna talk about, that's why I was on my phone. I started looking at some policies and procedures. I started looking at the school of government blog.
Right.
And I can't answer that question right this minute unless I know exactly what that question would be. So it'd be great between now and then, whoever has a specific thing, once you see the other policies, email me what you would like to include in it, and that way I can look at it before the meeting and be prepared to respond.
Right, that's why I wanted to be May first, not the next meeting this month, but, you know, give you an amount of time to do it.
I think it would take longer than that, about mid-May, don't you? Instead of
I
the
do
first.
not, I do not. I
To
think
get
what
our
we're doing-
strategies together.
Because what we have to, even with, and for those of us that were here, a professor came and spoke at our retreat when certain council members wanted to actually not even allow certain people to speak. And his exact words were, we cannot restrict, those are things we cannot do. And that sounds like that's the same road we're going down. And then what you want to do already exists in our policy. We just have to ensure we enforce it. We allow people to come up and say things that were against our policy. We didn't enforce it. So if we have a policy, let's just follow the policy. I think we have enough time before our next meeting, if whatever groans you have about it, if you submit those to Ron, so we can make a decision at our next meeting. We don't need to continue to.
Now, I'm
push it
not
out.
saying cut it out in May. I'm saying continue the one time in May. Give us time to sit down, talk about strategies, make sure that we got it together, make sure that the public knows and understands what we're doing, and then implement it.
I have a concern about approving something that we're gonna come back later on and structure the details on.
I want to see the details. I have to vote no right now. I don't see the details.
I agree, you know, I'm willing to vote on it next meeting if I see what the structure is.
But I'm not going, my vote is no right now.
But what is this, help me to understand, because it wasn't until a certain instance or situation where certain people felt attacked that we even began to talk about this.
It was the
It's been
coronavirus.
done. So what is your strategy? What is it that you want to happen? Because I don't think it's fair to limit people and say, the only way I can come up here and talk is if I tell the clerk or I tell whoever's going to be responsible for getting that information that this is what I want to talk about, when I can just decide to get off of work and come to the council meeting and want to speak and I can't. Guess what you're doing? You're stifling my voice. You're telling me I cannot speak because I did not sign up to speak. That is not fair. It's restricted.
Well, there
So
are-
what strategies are you guys trying to come up with that ultimately does not restrict our residents from speaking?
I want to know how many minutes, what's the maximum time. I want to, we can discuss, you know, whether they sign up or not. I mean, that's something to discuss, but until I see, you know, these provisions, I can't vote for it tonight. I'm willing to vote next meeting. I'm willing to vote next meeting.
I have a
But I
question.
wanna know what I'm voting
When someone comes
on.
up, because this part is new for me, when someone comes up and they sign up to speak, once they stand at that podium and speak, is it recorded?
Sure.
Does the secretary record?
Well, it's on tape.
It's all recorded.
It's on tape.
Okay, so we don't have in minutes what their concern was, so that we as council people can address it.
No.
So they're just standing up there telling us what they're concerned about, and people see it, but then we don't have it in minutes, we don't have it in writing so that we can discuss it and take care of it.
well, maybe you guys don't, but there's not a resident that has come up to this podium that I have not wrote down their name and what they were up here talking about. We have a responsibility as representatives to answer that. This has been a conversation before. People should not be coming up here expressing themselves and there's no follow-up. I could not agree with you more. We should be following up to those concerns. Now, what I also know is if we want something more of our minutes or from our clerk, then we as a council can decide to say, we would like the public comments to now be a part of our minutes. We have the power to do that, yes or no?
You could do that, but it would take a lot of time to write down everything that was said. Now, you have the video that's out there you can go back to any time.
Right.
What minutes are supposed to do is categorize decisions made, not everything everybody said.
I agree.
And that's what Robert Rules of Order says, but it says what is said and then what is done. That is what is said in Robert Rules of Order. So if I come up here and I don't want high water bill, then you may have written it down. And we may know, but if it reflects in the minutes, that's all she has to write. You don't have to write all this stuff. I'm aware of Robert Rules of Order and what it says. And so all she has to do is say, concerned water bill increase.
But
Well,
one
I
thing
tell
we
you-
have to consider though, is the minutes and the time it takes her to get them to us. So even if she writes it down, depending on where we are and where she is, we may not see it until a meeting, 2 meetings after or 3 minutes after, depending on her workload. So even if it's in the minutes, we still don't have a way of seeing it until she produces it and then gives it to us. So whereas I get what you're saying, I think that's where we have to take the front lead and say, okay, well, boom, 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 I know she talked about that. I'm always following up with the city manager. Well, where are we at with this issue? That's where we as a council and representatives have to, step up our game.
I understand that, but what my concern is documentation, legal documentation that is on the books.
And the thing I can tell everybody right here, I love my city so much. When I don't care if we get out here at 10 o'clock, my routine on meeting night is to go watch YouTube. Sometimes it comes on right away. Sometimes I have to wait 2 hours. But there's a document, artifact rather, in video format all the way back to, I can recall 2016 when I first spoke at the podium, that I can go back and look at any meeting, any concern. I've actually looked at some things in the playback and addressed issues that I missed during the meeting because there was so much going back and forth, that I make it my responsibility to go home and watch the feed. And I mean, it's on YouTube. I mean, every meeting, every work session is documentation. I mean,
And we all
I've
have
said
that
in the audience,
responsibility to do
Right.
that, and I think that there's not a one of us that don't do that. Even before I was a city council woman, I watched. I wasn't always physically here,
Right.
but I watched the meetings. So I know what was said and I know what was done. But I believe in follow the paper trail, and I believe in documentation, legal documentation. So that's all I'm saying.
Okay, we still have a motion on the floor and a second to change the public speaking to twice a month, and that was effective May, correct?
Yes, sir.
yes.
All in favor? Raise your hand. All opposed? Motion fails. Okay,
Just for clarification, you're gonna have it on the agenda at the next meeting, correct?
yes,
Okay.
It
For
will be on-
clarification, the clerk's gonna send out the old policy as well and try to have questions to me
No, the
before the next
motion is
meeting, so
failed.
y'all can discuss it, try to pass whatever policy y'all want to go ahead and put in place.
yes.
Okay.
But I don't see if we can't, the motion failed, but, we could bring it back up with strategies,
You can
because I
always bring it.
really do want everybody to be heard. But I just don't want it to be, I want it to be productive. And from what I have seen in the past, it wasn't productive. People were coming up saying the same thing, people were coming up arguing and fussing, and that is not what we are about.
You're right. You're right.
But those
Well-
things still matter. Their angst, their pains, their anger, their emotions, they still matter. The problem was certain council members felt like they were being individually attacked because they were not getting a certain level of response. So that's when all of this came into play, Councilmember Jones. So what I'm saying is, as long as our policy speaks to it, and I'm glad that you'll get to read it, people are not supposed to come up here, which was a failure on the council because they were not enforcing their own policy by allowing people to come up here and talk about personal issues. So if I come and say, if somebody comes up and say, Councilmember Matthews or Brady, you're doing a horrible job. I hate that you voted on that the other day. I should accept that because that's their concern and that's how they feel. I shouldn't try to restrict them from saying stuff like that. What they can't say is, you remember when we was in middle school and you was talking about me? That's a personal issue. You cannot express that's two different things. And that's where we need to enforce our policy. So if someone wants to come and talk about their disagreement with something that we've done, we should welcome that. Because we're not going to do everything right.
We have email, and people can call.
Yes, they can.
I've gotten several calls, why does it have to be aired, Councilman Williams, I don't like the way, Matthews, I don't like the way you handle such and such and such, for me, if there is something that I dislike that you do, I'm not gonna come here and say, I don't like the way you handle this. I'm gonna call you, I'm gonna email you, and we're gonna talk about that.
Okay, I have some. In that same vein though, we're talking about redundancy. I can't recall how many people graced that mic, the other meeting we had, with their opposition towards the Shannon View project. So we're gonna say that just because 20 people.
That's a
spoke
different
out-
situation.
That was a public hearing.
That's a
well,
public
that's what
hearing.
I'm saying, but we're saying redundancy and using that word a lot, but those same people spoke the same talking points, even though it was a public hearing. I mean, if we get into minimizing the voice of what people are saying at a public comment, I mean, at what point are we gonna say, I mean, it was 2 hours worth of dialogue, as we say redundancy, but those people had similar concerns about their community, so.
Well, if these people sign up, let's say you wanna talk about something on Mulberry
But they
Street.
didn't that night, they just came up and spoke that night about those issues.
Well,
They
see,
didn't have to-
okay,
you don't
so
have to
then
do
are
that.
we not enforcing what we need to go back and take a look at this council is see how we're doing each group. That's what we need to do. I agree with you, Councilman Matthews. We need to take a look at what we're doing and how we're handling certain situations. Then that's what we need to do.
We've got a lot on the agenda, and this is a good discussion, but we need to move on. The next item on the old business is item D, Parks and Recreation marker on memorial policy.
Good evening, everyone.
Good
Hope
evening.
you're doing well.
Good evening, hope you know.
Thank you. I am here this afternoon to discuss with you our marker memorial policy. I met with you all probably about close to a year ago just to bring it to your attention that the policy is somewhat outdated, and got with our RAC and they've made some recommendations, and so it's in your packet as far as some of the recommendations. I just want to touch base with you all to see if you all are okay with us going down this path, because if you all are, then I'll be coming back presenting an ordinance to change the marker memorial policy. First off, with the marker memorial policy that was in your packet, you're going to see a lot of red. What I did was I pretty much took the old policy and went through to make some corrections so it'll be reflective of what the members of our RAC is suggesting we change it to. But I will say one of the reasons why you do see a lot of red is a name change. I say recently, but it's probably been at least 8 years ago. We still had things in our fleet for Parks and Recreation. Some vehicles said Parks and Recreation, some vehicles said, or they read Recreation and Parks. And so with this policy, I'm changing the name to go with what you all or our previous councils said that we could just say Parks and Recreation. So that's one reason why you do see a lot of red. The other thing, like I said, is the marker or memorial policy, and there has been some confusion, I'll say, over the years on what is what. So first, I just wanted to share with you what each of the things are. First, for the marker is a monument or plaque commemorating the life of a Goldsboro resident. Individual must be deceased, and they would have had to have done some type of outstanding service, whether, serving a civic group, which is an outstanding citizen. And in the past, somebody, more than likely a family member, would fill out the information to say, we would like to have a marker placed in Herman Park or a marker placed in Berkeley Park commemorating this citizen's life. That's what a marker is.
Who pays for it?
The person that wants it put there. So, not the city, not us. So also, we have memorial. Now, the memorial is any piece of equipment, parcel of land, or facility conducive to park development marked in a manner appropriate to eternalize the memory of a deceased individual. So memorial in the past, and like I said, this is what's in that document. There's like 4 pages, front and back, I believe. But in the past, you had the choice of a living memorial or a memorial. Living memorial is, I want to plant a tree in North End Park, in memory of my grandmother. And with that said, then I would either have to set up a fund with the city so that should something happen to that tree, or if it gets damaged, it needs to get trimmed, where it's like a perpetuity, I hope I'm saying that correctly, fund set up, in perpetuity fund set up, so that tree can be taken care of. Either that, or I, as a person that want to have this living memorial, I am responsible for it. Where, if the tree gets overgrown, then I am responsible for having it taken care of. That's living memorial. The other, just regular memorial, is you want to, where it says any piece of equipment, parcel, land, or facility. So that could be, okay, I want to put a swing in South End Park, and on the toddler swing seat, I want to have it say, this is in memory of whoever. That is what a memorial could be. The RAC, where, like I said, we've gotten together and they've discussed it, some of the changes that they're recommending is, first off, get rid of the living memorial piece. It's either going to be a marker or a memorial, because when you get into a living memorial, that's where you do get more down into the weeds, pardon the pun, but you have to look like, do you want a shrub? Do you want a flower? Do you want a tree? So that's one of the things that our RAC is recommending, that we take it out of this policy, the living memorial piece. One of the other big things that our RAC is recommending comes out of the piece is the age requirement. So for this policy in the past, you, depending upon which one you're looking to have done, you would have had to have been deceased for a certain amount of time and or have been a certain age. So in general, you would have, let's say, have to have been at least 75 years old, or lived in Goldsboro for at least 30 years, where our RAC is recommending taking off those restrictions, so that, how can I say, it makes it more available for other people that may want to do a memorial in the future. And so, like I said, those are just some of the things that I did want to bring up and point out to you all, like, to give you all a chance to look at it, because it's not a decision that has to be made tonight. That's why I wanted to get on the old business discussion. One of the things that we are, of course, correcting with this updated policy is the way the policy we're proposing for it to go moving forward is, if someone does want to do this, and let me clarify, this is just for our parks. This is just for the parks, under City of Goldsboro Parks Recreation. This is not talking about City Hall, this is not talking about a school building, this is not talking about courthouse. This just refers to our parks. So should someone want to have something in one of our parks with the updated proposed policy, they will still come before the RAC, complete the paperwork. The RAC would discuss it, and then they will make a recommendation to either approve or disapprove. And then once that recommendation is made, we would then bring it to you all for you all to have the final say. With the previous or current policy, they present it to the RAC. The RAC says yes or no. If the RAC says no, then they come to you all to have you, quote unquote, override the RAC. So like I said, that is one of the changes that is being, proposed with the new policy. But have I confused anybody?
Sounds good. Makes sense.
But like I said, if you haven't had a chance, please, like I said, look at it. Let me know if you have any questions. I know I've spoken with a couple of you on, well, what exactly does this mean? So I'll go on and say, it's like, for instance, where it's talking about some type of facility, conducive to park development. The example I gave was, let's say if somebody wants to put a batting cage in Berkeley Park, but it's in memory of someone. That's something that would make our park there at Berkeley Park better. It's not something that we have in our budget, but it is conducive to developing that park. So that, will fall under there.
Any questions?
Good job.
Right.
Okay, thank you, Felicia.
Thank you.
Felicia.
Okay, we're going to try to get through new business before 7 o'clock. We may have to come back and get the consent agenda after 7 o'clock. Okay, City Manager?
Okay, so item E, the North Carolina League of Municipalities has requested the council select a voting delegate to vote on the board of directors for the upcoming year. Last year, council appointed me as the city manager to be that voting delegate. It could be anybody, it could be a council member, but I need you all to designate someone for that since it'll come up later this month.
Does anyone have any suggestion they want to make other? Well, let's leave it at that.
I think we've always had the city manager
Yeah.
be the one that does that.
I'd be happy to do so.
Well, can you delegate someone else as well?
Could be you.
No, I
There's
don't.
only one person.
Yeah.
There's only one
Only one
person.
person.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I
And you
don't.
can
I don't
only-
want to do it.
and you
I
can
don't want
only
to do
vote
it.
for one person.
Okay, I don't want to do it. But is there anyone else sitting here that would like to get the experience of doing that?
One once, one twice.
Yeah, we'll let him do it.
Okay, Mr. Salmon, you're the delegate.
I'm in, roger that. Okay. Item F, informal bid for the urgent repair program. I'm gonna ask Ms. Felicia Williams to come up and present this information from the Community Relations and Development.
Good
Good
evening,
evening.
Mayor Pro
Good
Tem
evening.
Ham, City Council. I just have a very short, quick update on the 2019 Urgent Repair Program. Of course, COVID delayed the execution of the program, but we have recently been able to begin work on the program. So we received $100,000 from the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency to make repairs for up to $10,000 per property. We initially had 12 properties. We learned a few weeks ago that one of the properties was tied up in litigation, so we now have 11. The city did advertise the informal bid beginning March the 5th. I've learned that the demand for contracting business is really high right now, so we received one formal bid from SBC Contracting.
Have we done any business with him before?
He has bid in the past, but he was not awarded in the past.
Okay. How do you feel about it?
Pretty good.
You feel about, the
He
contractor?
has an unlimited license, North Carolina license, general contracting.
Have you checked them out with any other clients? Have you
We have not, no, sir.
recommend you do some type of research, get some feedback from some of the people he's done business with, just to satisfy your mind?
Yes, sir.
I'm not questioning, not suggesting anything, but,
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
We can try to get a few consent agenda items in. Item D, change order for the wastewater system improvement formal
Marty?
bid.
Get mine in a couple of minutes.
Okay.
Thank you. This is the change order for the 2017 wastewater system improvements project. We ran into an issue where we weren't able to turn off the pump station temporarily for one of our pump stations. So we're going to need to what we call wet tapping the line to get a bypass line in to do some sewer rehab. Staff recommends issuing a change order to the current contract with Amliner East Incorporated for the wastewater system improvements project. We've reviewed the financing of the project, or reviewed the change order with the finance director and determined that funds are available within the loan reimbursement. It's recommended City Council by motion adopt the attached resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a change order for $61,325 with Amliner East Incorporated. And this, of course, will be contingent upon Division of Water Infrastructure approval for the change order.
Any questions?
Any questions?
Okay.
That's the
Thank you,
same
Marty.
group that's been doing all the liner work?
No, we have several projects going on. This particular project is the big ditch outfall down on George Street. That's where this change order is coming
Okay.
from.
I wanted to know where it was coming from.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, ma'am?
No, I was talking to the clerk.
Thank you. Felicia, can you get yours in 10 minutes? Okay, we're talking about item E, authorization of agreement with Goldsboro Football Youth Club Academy for use of Brown Multi-Sports Complex.
Yes, good evening again, and this is before you all, this agenda item, as far as us going into an agreement with the Goldsboro Football Club Youth Academy, as Mayor Pro Tem Ham said, for their usage of our Brown Multi-Sports Complex and other athletic facilities for soccer games and practices. Just to give you a little background, we were approached by them. They are a nonprofit organization where they have expressed interest in having access to our facilities. We, of course, have the Brown Multi-Sports Complex, where it is our goal to just grow the game of sports in general, whether it's our recreational league sports or the field of sports tourism. So what I have before you this evening is the agenda item and a draft copy of the lease agreement. And so it's recommendation by motion authorize the mayor and city clerk to enter into an agreement with the Goldsboro Football Club Youth Academy for a 6-year term that includes an option for either organization to cancel the agreement with 90 days written notice. And like I said, we have similar agreements in place currently with other organizations, whether they're not-for-profits or semi-professional teams. So this is not a first-time agreement I'm bringing before you all.
Let me mention, if I may, that Councilwoman Jones and myself sat down with city manager, Ms. Brown, and the applicant and talked about this issue. When it was said and done, they meet the criteria as stated by the city and Parks and Recreation to use the field. Is there any other comments?
Are we
If
gonna
I
have time?
have a comment, just one comment, and I want everybody to use these fields, but I don't want all of a sudden for us to lose the large tournaments which are gonna pay for, that are paying for these fields. So we do have ability to block out
Oh, yes.
a weekend, say we got a big.
Correct. So first of all, when it comes to the multi-sports complex, our programs, our events take precedence. Everyone knows that going into like an agreement with us. For us, the beauty of the sports complex is, and I was in a meeting discussing this earlier today, we have our recreational games there. They're played during the weekday, and like you said, on the weekends, we have the availability to host these large tournaments, whether it's Quidditch, lacrosse, soccer, of course, football. We have the ability to do these things on the weekends because, like I said, we do our recreational league play during the weekdays, and this would not interfere with that.
Okay, that's what I don't want to, we've got to pay for that
Right.
facility.
Right.
So are we gonna have time to discuss this a little later? Because my only concern, Ms. Brown, is I know there are other nonprofits who use that. I know there are nonprofits who even register for our leagues and soccer and stuff like that. And when they were asked about different opportunities for the lights, they didn't have this opportunity. So my concern is if we allow this to happen, then are we willing to open it up to all of those other organizations to come in? Because, I mentioned it to one nonprofit, they didn't even know that this was even an option to do that. And I know you said you guys were approached by them, but this is gonna open up an opportunity that I would strongly encourage other nonprofits who, are inner city, they work with our youth to take advantage of. I just hope that they would be extended the same grace that this organization would have been if the council decides to approve it.
Right, and that's something, again, as each organization approaches us, because like I said, these are just ones that have approached me and the previous director as far as expressing interest in using the facility. And let me be clear, the agreement allows them to use the facility and not pay us a fee. Anyone can use our facility. This just allows them to not have to pay a fee up front because they're trading off services in order to be able to use that facility. So at some point, because each of these agreements have been approved by council, whether it was this council or former council, so at some point, if you all like, well, wait a minute, you're doing too many agreements, then you all are gonna put, the stop button on me. But again, as each group or as groups come to me, with these things, then it is my duty to bring it before you all. And if it's something that's conducive to what we're trying to do, great. If it's not, then that's where you all will step in and say, I think you have enough, organizations out there. You don't need to have any more.
Thank you. That's what
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Felicia.
Thank you.
Chief?
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. Item F on the agenda is a Drummers World Drumline Video Promo Temporary Street Closing. An application was received from a Drummers World requesting permission to shoot a promotional video on Thursday, April 22nd, 2021 from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. The video shoot is scheduled to begin at Chestnut Street on Center Street, run north in the northbound section of Center Street to Walnut Street, and circle back in the same northbound section to end at Chestnut Street. The police, fire, public works, and downtown Goldsboro offices have been notified of this request. The time requested for the closing is from 6 p.m. until 7:30 p.m. Staff recommends approval of this request subject to the following conditions. All intersections remain open for the police department's traffic control. 14-foot fire lane is maintained in the center of the street to provide access for fire and emergency vehicles. All activities, changes in plans, etc. will be coordinated with the police department. The police, fire, public works, downtown Goldsboro offices are to be involved in the logistical aspects of this event. It is recommended that the council approve the street closing of the northbound section of Center Street at Chestnut Street and Walnut Street for the promotional video shoot of a Drummers World Drumline from 6 p.m. until 7:30 p.m. on Thursday, April 22nd of 2021. Any questions?
Any questions? Okay, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
That ends the consent agenda. We're going to recess to 7 o'clock. A motion to recess.
Make a motion to recess until 7 o'clock.
Second.
All in favor? It's 7:03. We'll continue with our meeting April 5th. And the first order of business is to have our invocation. Pastor Byron, your step forward, please. We'll get your invocation, then we'll follow it with the Pledge of Allegiance if you'd like to stick around, sir. Stand, please.
Yes. Thank you all for your service to the city of Goldsboro. It's much appreciated, and may we pray.
Thank you.
Gracious God, we thank you for this time together tonight. We thank you for this opportunity to be here and to see what the city can do to better Goldsboro, but also to better your kingdom. And when two work together, we know that nothing can fail. So we just pray for each individual here, for each council member here, and pray the decisions that are made today will be for the good of your kingdom. For this we pray and ask in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Pledge of allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you seated, please? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Mayor Pro Tem Ham,
Here.
Councilmember Jones,
Here.
Councilmember Broadway,
Here.
Councilmember Polo,
Present.
Councilmember Matthews,
Present.
Councilmember Aycock.
Here. Okay, everyone's here. Next item is approval of minutes. I have minutes from the work session and regular meeting of February 15th, and minutes of the council retreat of February 24, 25. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion.
Or a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, raise your hand. Motion's approved. Okay, we have two presentations. I'll read the first one.
I got it.
Oh, I gave you the wrong one, I'm sorry. Do we have anyone here from the Child Abuse Prevention? I thought I recognized you. You want to come on up?
Wait, it's the same one. They're both the same.
Oh, Melissa, they're both the same. Oh, no, this is child abuse.
This one is, oh, sorry. Oh, okay.
I'm gonna come around there with you. I know this lady, she does a great job in this city. And I want you to face it with us. Child Abuse Prevention Month proclamation. Whereas children are vital to our state's future success, prosperity, and quality of life, as well as being our most vulnerable assets. And whereas all children deserve to have the safe, stable, nurturing homes and communities they need to foster their healthy growth and development. And whereas child abuse and neglect is a community responsibility affecting both the current and future quality of life of a community. And whereas communities that provide parents with social support, knowledge of parenting and child development, and concrete resources, they need to cope with stress and nurture their children, ensure all children grow to their full potential. And whereas effective child abuse prevention strategies succeed because of partnerships created among citizens, human service agencies, schools, faith communities, healthcare providers, civic organizations, law enforcement agencies, and the business community. Therefore, I do claim April as Child Abuse Prevention Month and call upon all citizens, community agencies, faith groups, medical facilities, elected leaders, and businesses to increase their participation in our effort to support families, thereby preventing child abuse and strengthen the communities in which we live. Signed, David Ham, Mayor Pro Tem, 5th day of April, 2021. And Cricket, I know you've done a lot in this community and various agencies, and you continue to do so. When I was a few weeks ago, I was asked to speak about child abuse, and one thing that really stood out to me is that I found out in Wayne County, we have over 29,000 children 18 years and below. And some of those kids are abused. They're abused by withholding necessary services to them, food, clothing, whatever. They're physically abused, they're sexually abused, they're verbally abused. And people like Cricket and her organization are trying to put forth the word out, get the word out that if you see abuse, report it. I know you're doing more things than that, but I want to make that statement for you. So, listen, thank you for what you're doing, and you got the floor.
Can you use the microphone? Sure. I think,
Okay. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, for the proclamation. So our children are so important, as you all know. They're our future. And I think that as a community, we underestimate the power that we have to keep our children safe. And so this year we chose to go with the hashtag Recognize and Respond. Recognizing child abuse is not as simple as it seems. Many times we look to the children that are acting out. We look to the children that get involved in drug activity and different things like that. But we don't notice the children that keep to themselves, that ordinarily would be involved with other kids. We don't look to the children that are trying to have far too perfect behavior. So we want to continue to educate folks so that you know what to look for and know what to do when you see it. It's our civic responsibility, and it's actually state law mandated that we report abuse if we see it. And we have to be the voices for these children. Sometimes they don't have anybody to be able to stand up for them. During the pandemic, I have been more so worried about that than I have a lot of other things, because our children are not in school because of everything obviously that's going on. And I've had people say to me that, well, the child abuse statistics have gone down. Well, the kids are not anywhere for people to stand up for them. So I just ask that we're all intentional as a community to keep our children safe and to let them grow up with their innocence intact. And one of the key takeaways that just shakes me to my very core sometimes is 5 children a day die from child abuse. And it's so preventable. So, you know, I just ask as you go through your day, it shouldn't just be Child Abuse Prevention Month, it needs to be child abuse prevention every day. So as you go through your days, just think about ways that you as a community citizen can help with our children. I know that it counts for each and every one, and I share this with everybody else because I am one of the ones. And so I appreciate everything that people do to help keep our children safe. There's going to be activities throughout the month. We will publicize them on social media. There's going to be a resiliency screening. That's why I brought my phone so I didn't forget the date. On April 29th at the Paramount. If you have not had an opportunity to see that, please take that opportunity to do so. It's free to the public. You just have to register. And again, this will be on social media, but it will definitely enlighten you and enable you to be able to go out and recognize and respond and help our children. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Bridget. Thank you. I want to mention also that our council participated in that video, our whole council, not just myself, and we all support the efforts that are underway in support of the child abuse program. So thank you. Now, Ms. Matthews.
I actually have 2. This is you want me to do the Week of the Young Child too?
Yep.
Okay. Whereas, is it okay if I say it?
Sure.
Okay. A Week of the Young Child proclamation. Whereas the City of Goldsboro values the importance of children's positive experiences in shaping their learning and developing during their earliest years. And whereas the City of Goldsboro supports high quality, accessible, and affordable child care and early childhood education. Whereas Quality education from the start and health of the child from birth are vital to building a strong community, state, and country. And whereas Partnership for Children of Wayne County and North Carolina Partnership for Children, along with the North Carolina Association for Education of Young Children, North Carolina Child Care Coalition, and all the child care centers and preschools in the city of Goldsboro join together in recognizing and supporting the people and programs that are committed to providing high-quality early childhood education and services. Whereas the Week of the Young Child is a time to thank and recognize our early childhood educators that care for and educate our youngest children. Whereas the Week of the Young Child is a time to recognize that children's opportunities are our responsibilities and to commit ourselves to ensuring that every child experiences the type of environment that will promote their early learning. Now, therefore, I, David Ham, Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Goldsboro, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim April 10th through the 16th, 2021 as Week of the Young Child and commend its observation to all citizens of the City of Goldsboro. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and affixed the seal of the City of Goldsboro, North Carolina, this 5th day of April, 2021.
Do we have anyone here? I failed to ask that, I'm sorry. Come on up and speak to that.
I'm going to take this off. Good evening. Thank you for letting us be here this evening to talk just a few minutes about the importance of early childhood. I'm Valerie Wallace. I'm the director at the Partnership for Children. This is Logan Beal, who's my community engagement specialist. And I do want to thank, there's Cricket and Felicia, who are both my board members, for being here. I don't think they were here because of this, but I am glad that they're here to support this work that we do. I did bring some brochures to leave with somebody that will tell you about the work, the important work that we do regarding early childhood. The week that is designated across the nation for early childhood is so very important, but the work that we do every day here in Wayne County is just as important. We have programs that focus on young children, especially those between the ages of 0 to 5, because that's where the foundation is built. We get children ready to enter school to be successful, and so our programs are evidence-based. There's research to back up the work that we do, and so I want you all to take just a few minutes to look through our brochures. We did I did put a resilience flyer in there that Cricket was speaking about. So throughout the whole month of April, we'll be doing things to support families, to support programs that really do impact early childhood. So once again, thank you for this proclamation, and I would love to sit down and talk with you at some point and tell you about what we do.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. Okay. At this time, we will continue with the items requiring individual action. The first item is Z121, MC Morgan and Associates development on the west side of New Hope Road between Calabasas Road and
Public comment.
Did we skip public comments?
Public comment.
Sorry.
Public comment.
You skipped over items 6 and 7. You skipped over the
I'm
public
sorry, I
comment
don't
period,
get
and then
it.
also the consent agenda items.
I got carried away. I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you. Let me back up a second. We are now going back to public comment. Thank you. Anyone wishing to speak, come forward. You have 5 minutes. Anyone to speak? Yes, ma'am.
Can you speak on any issue?
Yes, ma'am. Come up here.
Bear with us just a second, we're getting the time.
Okay, just a moment, please. We need to get the technology working here.
Okay, I think we're ready.
If you
It's not showing yet, is it?
There you go, man. You got to timer up, we'll reset for 5 minutes. You've got 5 minutes, ma'am, we'll reset the timer for you.
Oh, no,
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for letting me speak. I'm here about the apartments on, the projected proposal, I should say, of the apartments on Cider Best and on New Hope. Last Monday night, I was at the Planning Commission meeting, and I was a little disappointed with the way it was presented, and I thought tonight I should speak to you about it. First, I was told that that's an advisory committee, and they do not look at anything political. And the thing that upset me the most was when it was presented, the issues of the traffic and the amount of traffic and the unsafe conditions were not addressed or even considered, other than to say that 6 people
Excuse me,
spoke
ma'am,
on
excuse me.
behalf.
Can you move the microphone around so we can,
Okay.
okay.
I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
But I was disappointed that the commission did not use that as a point that should have been taken in consideration when you're looking at putting 160 units of apartments in that little area of town. I did notice that there are a lot of signs up now saying that the land is under contract, so I know what's coming in the future. But I was disappointed that the commission last Monday did not even address the issue of traffic. It was just a bleep on the screen for those people that were there. I know what the vote was that night. I just didn't think they gave it full consideration, and I thought you should know that.
Excuse me, you're speaking of the Planning Commission, correct?
Yes, I am. Last Monday night, the Planning Commission, I didn't feel that they really addressed the issues of what the residents were there. I feel like they said that 6 people spoke. The gentleman said that 6 people spoke. I know we had more residents there than that. There were 5 in the other development, but there again, I don't think the full picture was given to the commission, and I wanted to address that tonight to your attention.
Okay,
Thank you.
ma'am.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Just so you know, after you spoke, like I said, I don't know if you recall from last meeting, I said I used to work in that fire district, and traffic was a concern of mine as well. So I took it upon myself the past week to kind of go through different peak hours.
I did too.
And I have seen that there's a bottleneck right there, as we already knew. So I just want to let you know, I want to let neighbors, residents know that I followed up, and that, as well as the other projects that have been proposed, are also a major point of concern too.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because there's another concern that came up out of that meeting, and it was a comment made by the chair of the committee. And he said that afterwards now, off the record, he said to me that the only way the roads can be changed in that particular area, and I would say probably in every area, is the Department of Transportation, DOT, to come in and do an assessment, and then the roads would be changed. The conditions would be changed. To me, that's unacceptable, because now you're saying only when maybe there's a major accident and somebody brings it to their attention that the conditions are going to be changed. That to me is not acceptable. It shouldn't be to this commission. You should be concerned about the citizens and their safety. And that's what I'm about, is the safety of those citizens that live in that area and use that road.
Well, the assessments have been done already. New Hope Road, correct me if I'm wrong, Jennifer, is on the radar for sure, right? Yeah, but Kyler Best is not?
Kyler Best is not, but New Hope Road is on the radar for improvements, from all the way from Town Road all the way up to Berkeley Boulevard, and even carrying you out to Millis Chapel.
But isn't that getting the cart before the horse? Shouldn't you do the roads and then do all your development? That to me seems the logical, because now you've got 200 in the one apartment complex that has 11 buildings. You have over 200 apartments in there, and that's added to traffic. So, it seems like to me, when is that going to be done too?
Well, the way that they look at this is it's scored, and it's scored on a local level, scored on a regional level, and on a state level. And we've got points that we can award certain roads, we have to look, and not the council here, but I'm talking about the Metropolitan Planning Organization and the Transportation Advisory Council. We take them down and we write down things and then we score them here. But they may go to the regional and get 0 points, and to the state and get 0 points.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean,
So-
that's just the way it's done, and probably a fair way, but we compete with money in our region, which is how many counties, Jennifer?
Well, we compete with Division 1 and Division 4.
Yeah,
So as far as number of counties, I'm not sure.
but Division 4 is Wilson and,
Majority of the projects do stay in Division 4.
yeah.
Well, I understand everything has to be prioritized, but to me, that's a serious issue, is the construction of the roads and how holding the volume of traffic.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And would you give the clerk your name and address, please?
She's a clerk.
Hi.
Anderson.
Thank you.
Sir, would you give your name and address?
First.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Max Sullivan, and I live at 1550 Kyler Best Road, and I spoke a few weeks ago. My neighbor Dale Benton asked me to speak for him as well tonight. He's not here because it happens to be his birthday, which is a wonderful thing. Again, my concern is safety and traffic, same concern that was mentioned before. I can look out my door any day and see traffic backed up from that stoplight all the way past Dale's property to my property. I don't know what that distance is. Is it at least a half mile? It might be 3/4 of a mile. That's crazy. That's insane. And for there not to be a traffic study and something to take care of that, and we're gonna build right across the street apartment buildings with 169 parking spaces in it, it's asking for a lot of trouble. The safety we know about on the road, because the ditches on either side, nobody can walk, and I see people walking that road every single day. You know, we definitely have animals killed along there every single day. There's a deer sitting in my yard today from last night. So this is what's going on, and I would implore you not to allow apartments to be built in this time until there's an infrastructure that can support it, because it clearly does not support it right now. And that's all I got. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone else? Yes, sir.
I'll just state my name on the record here, is that okay?
If you give it to her, please.
Hi there.
Dusty Mills. And 690 Dickinson Avenue.
690.
Dickinson Avenue.
Okay, gotcha.
Good evening. I am just going to spend a quick minute. I did appear before you previously in regards to the New Hope Place apartment complex that I believe the two individuals that spoke before me. It came up about traffic during the public hearing, and it was also referenced during the Planning Commission. And the chairman of the Planning Commission mentioned as part of that meeting that, you know, they had, you know, an understanding that that road was under capacity. And so we pulled up, we were not asked by staff to respond or commission a traffic study or TIA, which we are used to doing. We would have done that had we been asked, but they said that it wasn't required. But we did look at the capacity, and NCDOT's got an annual average daily traffic count of about 9,800 cars per day. And that road is at, its capacity is 12,000. So it is legally and technically under capacity. Does that mean that at 5 o'clock and at 8 o'clock in the morning there's backup? Most likely, and I've seen it firsthand myself. But I did want to point out that it is now, in DOT's eyes, operating under capacity, under the road's capacity. I also wanted to state or restate that we have talked with DOT, and as it pertains to our specific development, it would require a decel lane and a center turn lane, which we understand that DOT has challenges in funding, and that road improvements aren't imminent on New Hope or on Kyler Best, but I think everybody's hopeful. But things like a decel lane and a turn lane do significantly decrease the likelihood that there would be challenges for our particular development. From our standpoint, we think that affordable housing is much needed in this area. This particular property is zoned for 133 units. This proposal would only allow 80 units, so it's significantly less than what the present zoning allows. So with that, just wanted to state that for the record, that the road is under capacity. Don't dispute that there's traffic on the road, but in DOT's eyes, it is under capacity. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Sure.
During the public hearing, I don't know if you can answer this or the council can refresh my memory. There was a comment about DOT had an agreement about sidewalks or something that they hadn't done so far. Did I hear that correctly, or is it something that we can follow up on that would possibly be helpful?
Yeah.
For that?
I'm not sure. The one thing that I can tell you that's tied to sidewalks in our proposal is that we requested to pay a fee in lieu of doing the sidewalks. As the gentleman represented earlier, with it being a ditch there's a little bit of a challenge. That would be up to the board to determine if they would allow that. But I've seen that consistently requested through several other similar rezoning requests.
Jennifer can speak to that.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, sir.
Can I speak real quick on this? The public hearing was held at the last meeting. The comments are welcome, but technically you're not supposed to consider the comments made tonight, because that was the reason for the public hearing. So I'm just offering that. Okay, what you do with information you receive is going to be ultimately up to you, but technically you're not supposed to consider comments being made tonight, because that was for the purpose of the public hearing last
Right.
time.
Okay, are there any other individuals that would like to speak on an issue not related to?
Well, they can speak related to that. I'm not saying they can't. I'm just saying
Right,
that you're not supposed to consider it as evidence, because
Right,
that's
okay,
the purpose of the
okay.
public hearing, was to consider that evidence that was
Speak
presented.
about something that we're not going to consider.
No, they can do that too. Sorry.
Okay.
Let them speak.
There being no other people to come speak, we'll close the public speaking period. Now, we'll go to the items requiring individual action.
Consent agenda.
Want to do consent agenda items D through F presented for approval?
Well, I keep forgetting those, doggone it. Yeah, we need to vote on the consent agenda items. We had items D, E, and F in the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda items D through F.
A second.
Second, all in favor?
Can we have some discussion?
Roll call.
Voice, roll call.
Can we have some discussion?
If you want to have some discussion.
I actually think it's necessary for us to move item E to individual action off the consent agenda. I think that needs some more discussion. I was trying to get to that before we got the motion.
Anyone have any objection to moving it to? Okay.
I'll just make a motion in a second, because you have a motion in a second,
Okay.
depending on the floor on a different motion.
Yeah.
So if you're going to withdraw
Okay.
your motion.
Is there a motion to move item D from the consent agenda to items requiring individual action?
You gotta deal with
Let's
the
first
last
have the
one.
motion
Okay,
that's
so
on the
I-
floor be removed. Then we can go and have a motion to remove it from the consent agenda.
Okay,
Right
so-
now, we have one pending to approve the consent agenda D through E,
Right.
D, E, and F as presented.
Okay.
So I withdraw my motion of items D, E, and F, and move to have item E move to items requiring individual action.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, so moved. Okay, now can we get to,
So now you'll need to have a motion to approve consent agenda items D and F.
right. So we need a motion to approve consent agenda D and F.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Roll call.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Roll call. Roll
Mayor
call.
Pro Tem Ham,
Yes.
Councilmember Jones,
Here.
Councilmember Broadway,
Yes.
Councilmember Polak,
Yes.
Councilmember Matthews,
Yes.
Councilmember Aycock.
Yes.
Okay. Item requiring individual action. Jennifer?
Good evening, council.
Good
Good
evening.
evening.
Yes, I do have it in front of me. Item G is C121 MC Morgan and Associates, Shannon View. The property is located on the west side of New Hope Road between Kyler Best Road and North Harding Drive. The applicant's requesting a change of zone for a portion of the subject property from R12 to R9 conditional zoning, limiting the use to an 84-unit senior apartment complex. In conjunction with the request, the applicant is requesting a conditional use permit for the construction of those apartments, assuming it's rezoned to R9. Surrounding zoning, to the north, you have neighborhood business and shopping center. To the south, residential R6 zoning. To the east, residential R16 and R12 single family. And to the west, office and institutional and residential R12. The property is currently partially wooded and cleared farmland. On March 3rd, 2003, Goldsboro City Council approved a change of zone from residential R16 to residential R6 conditional zoning for the construction of 216 apartments upon property directly south of the proposed development, informally known as the Reserve at Bradbury Place. If the proposed zone is changed or approved, the applicant will be required to obtain a conditional use permit, as I just stated, for the proposed senior apartment complex. The city's comprehensive land use plan recommends mixed-use development. Proposed zoning for the property is compatible with the adjacent properties in the area. Since city water and sewer are available to serve the area, higher residential densities are encouraged. The submitted preliminary site plan that's associated with the conditional use permit as well as the rezoning indicates one 3-story senior apartment building containing a total of 84 units. Access to the site will be directly from West New Hope Road. West New Hope Road is a state-maintained road, and officials with NCDOT have been contacted and are recommending that the access drive for the senior apartments align with Shelley Drive to avoid conflicting left turns off of West New Hope Road. Parking for the site requires 2 spaces per unit plus 0.5 per bedroom over 2. A total of 168 parking spaces are required. 84 parking spaces are being shown on the submitted site plan, and the applicant is requesting a modification of the city's parking requirement due to the fact that the North Carolina Finance Agency requires only 1 parking space per senior apartment unit. External city sidewalks are required for new development. However, the city's pedestrian facilities plan does not recommend sidewalks for this area. The developer will be required to install sidewalks or pay a fee in lieu in the amount of approximately $9,864 to the city of Goldsboro. Interconnectivity is not shown on the site plan. The applicant is requesting a modification of the interconnectivity requirement. The applicant believes interconnectivity is not practical due to the proposed site layout of the senior adult facility. In addition, traffic from existing single and multifamily developments could cause unnecessary congestion and reduce pedestrian safety for the residents of the facility. City water and sewer are available to serve the subject property, and city engineering will require approval of stormwater calculations and drainage plans prior to any issuance of building permits. Street trees have been provided along West New Hope Road, and vehicular surface area landscape requirements must be met. Appropriate buffers are required along property lines. There consists of 15-foot landscape buffers as well as 20-foot landscape buffers. And staff is working with the applicant to ensure landscape requirements are met per the city's Unified Development Ordinance. Building elevations have been submitted and indicate the proposed buildings will be constructed of brick veneer and fiber cement shake siding. Roofing materials will be architectural shingles. A majority of the subject property is located outside the city limits, and since city utilities are located within 1,000 feet of the site, the developer will be required to connect to city water and sewer, as well as annex into the city limits. At the public hearing held on March 15th, the applicant came forward in support of the request, citing the 84 units would be restricted to 55 years and older population. 5 citizens did speak in opposition, and primarily they did cite traffic congestion and safety concerns, and one did speak of potential off-site runoff. The Planning Commission at their meeting held on March 29th recommended approval of the change of zone for a portion of the subject property from R12 to R9 conditional zoning, limiting the use of an 84-unit apartment complex. The Planning Commission also recommended approval of the conditional use permit request for the construction of those 84 units in a R9 zoning district. It is recommended by motion, accept the recommendation of the Planning Commission regarding the zoning recommendation and find the proposed zoning amendment consistent with the city's adopted comprehensive land use plan, because multifamily dwellings are permitted as a mixed-use one land use, and find the proposed zoning amendment is reasonable and in the public interest. Best, it supports the city's adopted comprehensive land use plan and is compatible with adjoining properties in the area. And finally, adopt an ordinance changing the zoning of the property from R12 to R9, conditional zoning, limiting the use to an 84-unit senior apartment complex. After that motion, I will need a separate motion regarding the conditional use permit, which the Planning Commission also recommended approval on. And if we get to that portion, it will be to adopt an order approving the conditional use permit. That includes a modification of the city's parking requirement from 2 parking spaces per apartment to 1, and modification of interconnectivity due to the proposed site layout not being practical or safe for the residents of the facility, and then require the developer to pay the fee in lieu of $9,864 for sidewalks. Any questions for staff?
So what you just said, you answered my question, right? So the issue from the developer is gonna be addressed best they can outside of widening of a road. We are trying to allow some safety with the sidewalks. Is that what you're saying?
We are not requiring, we have a pedestrian facilities plan that we refer back to that was done, I can't remember the date, maybe 2013, with regards to the need of sidewalks. It had public interest, that sort of thing. It was all stakeholders involved, took into consideration where we needed sidewalks the most. That plan does not show sidewalks for that section of New Hope Road. And therefore, new development, and per our ordinance, new development does require installation of sidewalks according to the pedestrian facility plan. If it's not shown in the facility plan, they have to pay the fee in lieu of for that construction. So this developer is requesting to pay the $9,000, and that is calculated the road frontage at $18 linear foot.
Okay, so we need a motion.
I need a motion, first take an action on the zoning recommendation, which would, as per the Planning Commission, they recommended approval of the rezoning as well as the conditional use permit, but I do need 2 separate motions, one for the zoning and one for the conditional use permit.
I'll make a motion, we deny rezoning of the property.
Second.
Motion's been made and second to deny the rezoning of properties under Z121, MC Morgan and Associates. Have a vote? Second. All in favor of denying the rezoning, raise your hand. Got 3, 4, 9.
Did you get who denied? No. Can you raise your hands again? She did not record who denied. You couldn't see the hands.
Councilman Jones, Pollock, and Aycock.
And Matthews.
And Matthews, okay. Motion is denied.
When the motion passes,
Yeah, I'm sorry, excuse me, motion passed, excuse me. Motion passes to deny the rezoning, excuse me.
Yes, to deny the rezoning.
Okay, go ahead.
I do need action on the conditional use permit as well.
We need a motion to approve the conditional use permit, CU 421, Shannon View 84 unit senior apartment. I have a motion to,
I make a motion to deny the usage of
there a
conditional
second?
usage.
So,
you second. Councilman Pollock made the motion, Aycock second. All in favor of denying the conditional use, raise your hand. Same four. Okay.
I do want to make a statement, though.
Sure.
While I voted to deny both of them, I personally have no problems with them, but I represent my district, and my district did not want them.
Okay.
I'm just gonna move forward. Oh, there we go, we got it back. Your next item is item H, Z221, Morgan and Associates Tiffany Gardens Phase 2. Property is located on the west side of Thoroughfare Road between Central Heights Road and the NC Railroad. The applicant's requesting a change in zone for a portion of the subject property from R16 to R6 conditional zoning, limiting the use to an 84-unit apartment complex. Also, in conjunction with this request is a conditional use permit for the construction of those apartments if rezoned to R6 conditional zoning. Surrounding zoning to the north, south, east, and west, you have residential, R16 and R12 and R9. On April 1st of 2019, Goldsboro City Council accepted the recommendation of the Goldsboro Planning Commission and adopted an ordinance, Z1419, changing the zone of the property directly north of the subject property from residential R16 and R12 to R12 conditional zoning, limiting the use of the property to an 84-unit apartment complex. Now the same developer is proposing a second phase of residential development consisting of another 84-unit apartment complex. If the zoning is approved, the applicant will be required to obtain a conditional use permit approved by City Council for the proposed apartment complex. The property is currently vacant, and this isn't going to work, so I'm not going to mess with that. The city's land use plan recommends medium-density residential development, and in addition, the plan recommends that higher densities should be encouraged since city water and sewer are available to serve the property. The submitted preliminary site plan indicates three-story apartment buildings containing a total of 84 units. In addition, a community building is also being proposed on site. Access to the site will be directly from Thoroughfare Road. Since Thoroughfare Road is a state-maintained road, NCDOT officials have been contacted and are requiring a driveway permit, as well as left and right turn lanes along Central Heights Road as a result of Phase 1 development. Parking for the site requires 2 spaces per unit plus 0.5 per bedroom over 2. A total of 176 parking spaces are required and 176 spaces have been shown. Sidewalks are required for new development. However, the city's pedestrian facilities plan does not recommend sidewalks for this area, and the developer will be required to pay a fee in lieu in the amount of $8,280 to the city of Goldsboro. Interconnectivity has been shown west of the site as adjacent property is currently being developed for the multifamily use. City water and sewer are available to serve the subject property. City engineering will require approval of stormwater calculation and drainage plans prior to issuance of any building permits. Street trees have been provided, and staff is working with the applicant to ensure landscape requirements are met prior to any building permits and per the Unified Development Ordinance. Building elevations have been submitted. They will be constructed of brick veneer and fiber cement shake siding. Roofing materials will be architectural shingles. The subject property is located outside the city limits. Since city utilities are located within 1,000 feet of the site, the developer will be required to connect a city water and sewer as well as annex into the city limits. The public hearing held on March 15th, the applicant came forward in support of the request, citing the project as a continuation of a previously approved multifamily project known as Tiffany Garden Phase 1. 4 citizens spoke in opposition, primarily citing traffic congestion, safety concerns, and drainage issues. The Planning Commission at their meeting held on March 29th recommended approval for the requested change of zone for a portion of the subject property from R16 to R6 conditional zoning, limiting the use to 84-unit apartment complex. The Planning Commission also recommended approval of the conditional use permit associated with this rezoning request. So it is recommended by motion accept the recommendations of the Planning Commission, find the proposed zoning amendment consistent with the city's adopted comprehensive land use plan, find the proposed zoning amendment is reasonable and in the public interest because it supports the city's adopted comprehensive land use plan for higher density residential development, and adopt an ordinance changing the zoning of the property from R16 to R6 conditional zoning, limiting the use to an 84-unit apartment complex. Upon that motion or approval, we'll need a motion and approval for a conditional use permit, to adopt an order approving the conditional use permit for construction of the units, and limit the proposed development to 84-unit apartment complex, and require the developer to pay the fee in lieu of $8,280 for sidewalk installation to the city of Goldsboro.
Thank you. So this is item H, Z221, MC Morgan and Associates, Tiffany Gardens. We need a motion to for rezoning and to either approve or deny. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to deny.
Motion is made by Ms. Jones. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Pollard. Any discussion? All voting for denial of the rezoning, raise your hand. Okay. We also need a motion to on the conditional use permit, CU 521, for that same property. Do I have a motion to approve or deny the conditional use permit?
Make a motion to deny the conditional use permit, CU 521, Tiffany Garden.
Is there a second?
Second.
Did you second? Okay. Ms. Jones, second. All in favor of denying the rezoning permit, excuse me, the conditional use permit, raise your hand. Motion carries.
Item I is Z321 Barnes Jewelers Building. The property is located on the south side of Eastgate Drive between Mall Road and Cashwell Drive. The applicant requests a change of zone from the subject property from shopping center to general business. In conjunction with the request, the applicant has submitted a conditional use permit for the operation of an internet cafe for the property addressed as 502C2 Eastgate Drive. Surrounding zoning to the north, south, east, and west, you have shopping center. The property is currently occupied by a commercial strip center consisting of 3 separate buildings, totaling approximately 12,000 square feet and containing 5 tenant spaces, currently consisting of a jewelry store, nail salon, hair salon, restaurant, and 1 tenant space currently for rent or lease. If the change of zone is approved, a conditional use permit approved by City Council will be required for the proposed operation of an internet cafe. The city's comprehensive land use plan recommends commercial development for the site. At the public hearing held on March 15th, the property owner was present and indicated he was available for any questions the council may have. However, he did not voice support or opposition. No other persons came forward to speak for or against the request. The Planning Commission at their meeting held on March 29th recommended denial of the requested change of zone for the subject property from shopping center to general business. Even though consistent with the city's comprehensive land use plan, the Planning Commission found the proposed zoning not compatible with the adjacent zoning districts and existing developments. It is recommended by motion accept the recommendation of the Planning Commission and deny the requested zoning changing from shopping center to general business. Although consistent with the city's comprehensive land use plan, the proposed zoning request would not be compatible with adjacent zoning districts and existing developments.
This is item number I on the agenda, Z321 Barnes Jewelry Building for a zoning permit for the business mentioned. Do I have a motion to approve or deny?
I make a motion, we approve the Planning Commission's recommendation and deny the rezoning.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. All in favor of approving the Planning Commission's decision to deny the permit, raise your hand. You got everyone?
Yes, and
Ms. Matthews?
I've opposed.
Okay. Okay, then. Next one is CU221 A&M Cafe, electronic gaming, same location.
I just want to be clear that just indicate, because the rezoning failed, internet cafes are only allowed in general business zoning district. Planning Commission at their meeting held on March 29th recommended denial of the conditional use permit for the operation of the internet cafe with 18 game units located within the shopping center zoning district that it does not meet the criteria set forth in the Unified Development Ordinance number 2017-23 Internet Cafe Sweepstate Facilities. So it is recommended by motion accept the recommendation of the Planning Commission and adopt an order denying the conditional use permit operation of the Internet Cafe within the shopping center zoning district. Such operations are only permitted in the general business zoning district.
We need to vote on that?
Yes, sir.
So, CU221 A&M Cafe, and you heard the presentation by Jennifer. Is there a motion to deny?
I make a motion we accept.
Or approve, I'm sorry.
I make a motion that we accept the recommendation of the Planning Commission and deny.
Is there a second? There's a second. All in favor of approving the Planning Commission's, I'm sorry. Oh, okay, you're ahead of me. Were you voting or a second?
A second. I'm just second. I thought you had called for the motion.
Not yet. We have a motion and a second, and now I'm calling for the vote to approve the Planning Commission's denial of the gaming facility. Yeah. All in favor? Okay, next item, K, CU321, New Hope Place Apartments, multifamily dwelling, north side of Collar Best Road between Oxford Boulevard and Flinders Drive.
The applicant's requesting a conditional use permit for the construction of an 80-unit apartment complex located in the R9 residential zoning district. I just want to remind the council that this property is already zoned, so is not associated with the rezoning. According to the city's Unified Development Ordinance, multifamily dwellings are permitted use in the R9 zoning district. However, a conditional use permit approved by City Council is required for the construction of the apartment complex. In November of 2016, Goldsboro City Council approved site and landscape plans for the construction of 50 senior apartments directly west of the subject property and formerly known as the Collar Springs Senior Living Community. The property consists currently of woodlands. And the submitted preliminary site plan indicates 4 three-story apartment buildings containing a total of 80 units. In addition, a community building is also being proposed on site. Access to the site will be directly from Collar Best Road. And since Calabash Road is a state-maintained road, NCDOT officials have been contacted and are requiring driveway permits as well as left and right turn lanes along Calabash Road. Parking for the site requires 2 spaces per unit, plus 0.5 per bedroom, or bedroom over 2. A total of 169 parking spaces are required and 169 spaces have been shown. The submitted site plan shows 5-foot wide external sidewalks for the site. However, the developer has requested to pay a fee in lieu in the amount of $8,280 since the area is not recommended for sidewalks according to our pedestrian facilities plan. Interconnectivity has not been shown for the site. The developer is requesting a modification of the city's requirement due to the nature of the adjacent developments and their existing site conditions. City water and sewer are available to serve the subject property. A portion of the property is located within the special flood hazard areas known as 500-year floodplains, as well as within the floodway. City engineering will require approval of stormwater calculations and drainage plans prior to issuance of any building permits. Street trees have been provided along Calabash Road. A type A 10-foot wide landscape buffer is required along all property lines, and vehicular surface area landscaping requirements must be met. Staff is working with the applicant to ensure those requirements are met and per the Unified Development Ordinance. Building elevations have been provided, and the building will be constructed of brick veneer and cedar shake vinyl siding, and roofing materials will be 30-year architectural shingles. The subject property is located outside the city limits, and since city utilities are located within 1,000 feet of the site, the developer will be required to connect to city water and sewer, as well as annex into the city limits. At the public hearing held on March 15th, the applicant came forward in support of the request and specified a rezoning was not necessary for the proposed use. He indicated 133 units were allowed with the conditional use permit request. However, the developer is proposing a maximum of 80 units. 6 citizens spoke in opposition, primarily again citing traffic congestion, safety concerns, and potential off-site runoff. The Planning Commission at their meeting held on March 29th recommended approval of the conditional use permit for the construction of 80-unit apartment complex located in the R9 zoning district. It is recommended by motion accept the recommendation of the Planning Commission and adopt an order approving the conditional use permit for the construction of 80 units apartments complex located in the R9 residential zoning district with the modification of paying the sidewalk installation fee in lieu of $8,280. In addition to the request, an annexation petition must be submitted to the City of Goldsboro as the subject property is located outside the city limits.
Okay, this is a conditional use permit request. Do I have a motion to approve the Planning Commission's recommendation to approve, or a motion to deny, whichever?
I make a recommendation that we deny the conditional use permit.
Second.
Mr. Aycock made the motion, Mr. Pollitt second. All in favor of denying the permit, raise your hand. Motion carried. And we're adding a couple items to the items requiring additional individual action. Item L is discussion on the location of the hotel position, recommended position, and at the Maxwell Center, and the acceptance of a $70,000 fee. Oh, no,
69.
69. I'm sorry. I was trying to get another $1,000. $69,000 reduction, and the money is owed to the county for the wastewater plant.
But transfer of up to 4 acres, and that property is to be alongside of the Wayne Memorial Drive. And then behind that, the city will retain 2+ acres to market as being appropriate for restaurant and or retail development.
You get that, Melissa? Okay. So, is there any discussion? All in favor of accepting the proposal, raise your hand. All opposed?
Did we have a motion?
Okay, item M, we took,
Who made the motion?
Nobody.
Okay.
Motion and a
'Cause
second.
you
Oh,
discussed the item and then called for the vote, but we didn't have a
about this
motion
time
or a
of night, I'm
second.
getting the answers, you know. Okay,
So,
I made the motion, no, excuse me, I discussed it, I said, is there a motion?
correct. So
Right.
we need a motion and
Yeah.
a second.
I'll make a motion that we transfer property to the county of Wayne for the development of the hotel.
Second.
As it was presented by Mayor Pro Tem Ham, including the up to 4 acres and also requesting, and part of the approval is getting a reduction of the amount owed to the county to $69,000 from $138,000, that you recommend that as well.
Correct.
As part of the motion.
Correct.
And the location of the hotel being option 2 that was presented to council during closed session.
Correct.
Sorry.
Thank you, attorney.
Sure we got it clear.
Okay. Now,
Is there a second?
That's a motion. We
Right.
have one motion. We need a second or just
I'll
discussion.
second.
okay. All in favor of accepting that long description of the motion, raise your hand. Okay, thank you. Now, item E from the consent agenda, authorization for an agreement with Goldsboro Football Youth Academy for use of Brian Maltus Sports Complex and other fields for soccer games and practices was moved from the consent agenda to items requiring individual action. Understand the coach is here. Does anybody have a question of the coach?
Well, I think my only concern, well, not my only concern, but in reading this memorandum, it talks about we are allowing the use of the fields. Does that include lights? Would that include the lights?
Yes.
So what we're saying is we're allowing, it also mentioned, we're going into this agreement to help our commitment to sports tourism. So is that to say this organization is not city, it's not Goldsboro? Are they from outside?
No, they're a local club.
Okay.
But
So as City Manager Salmon was just saying, they are a local club, and the reference to sports tourism is similar actually to what Councilmember Broadway was saying earlier, as far as one of our goals is to try to bring in more sports tourism, more tournaments, and this organization could potentially be helpful with that as far as bringing more tournaments to our facility.
Okay.
But they are a local group.
But they would also pay back the field time and help us run those tournaments just like the other
Correct.
organization.
Is this your?
Yes.
I just couldn't ask those questions earlier, so I needed to move it to ask those.
Not a problem, not a problem.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Discussion? Okay, do we need to vote? Okay.
Vote.
So we, on the item M, which is authorization of agreement with Goldsboro Football Youth Academy for use of Brian Maltus Sports Complex and other fields, city fields for soccer games and practices, parks and recreation use. Is there a motion to approve the contract?
I make a motion to approve the contract.
Second.
The motion is made and second. All in favor, raise your hand. Okay, we're down to the city manager's report.
Yes, sir. I'd like to highlight COVID update, the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services County Alert System depicts Wayne County as moderate impact community spread, which is a reduction from significant, and only one county in the state is rated less with low impact. The daily positive tests and active cases are roughly 10% of the post-holiday high. COVID vaccinations are available. The county is moving from group 4 to group 5, which is anybody. So if you want a vaccine, please contact the county health department to get it. I'd like to thank the Goldsboro Fire Department. The water rescue team assisted many units in Wayne County to find the 2 drowning victims this past week. Parks and Rec did an Easter bag giveaway on March 31st at the Bryan Multisport Complex involving over 300 people. I'd also like to recognize the Goldsboro Police Department, Public Works, and IT Department who over Easter fixed some communications repairs so our city employees could be back at work today on Monday. So thank you to our employees. And last but not least, highlight on April 17th, we will have the spring litter sweep in conjunction with the North Carolina Department of Transportation. This will be coordinated by the Code Enforcement Division of our Planning Department. You can contact Rachel Smith at 919-580-4313 by April 12th to sign up your team or volunteers to assist with this effort. We've had a lot of complaints about the trash and litter around the city of Goldsboro, so this is your opportunity to help us pick it up. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mayor and council members' reports and recommendations. Anyone have anything they want to speak to?
No comment.
Do you want me to do the?
Yeah, go ahead.
Do it now and then
Yes.
Okay. So I actually have the Women's History Month proclamation that I'll read, but I do want to go ahead and give my closing comments. I just want to thank everyone who came and participated in the Parade of Love for the Poplar Street Apartments. It was a beautiful event. It mattered a lot to me, you being there, but it mattered even more to the residents, and that's exactly what we wanted to happen. Also want to thank the fire department from the mighty Station 4 in District 4. Came out and led the processions with all the bells and whistles, so I do appreciate them. Thank you to the city manager for taking time out to participate with us as well. And also best wishes to those seniors. The senior games got started this past week, and they are excited and fired up. So if you have a chance to check out some of those games, please do that and cheer them on. Thank you. I'm going to now read the Women's History Month proclamation. Whereas women of every race, class, and ethnic background have made historic contributions to the growth and strength of our nation in countless recorded and unrecorded ways. And whereas women have played and continue to play a critical economic, cultural, and social role in every sphere of the life of the nation by constituting a significant portion of the labor force working inside and outside of the home. And whereas women have played a unique role throughout the history of the nation by providing the majority of the volunteer labor force of the nation, and whereas women were particularly important in the establishment of early charitable, philanthropic, and cultural institutions in our nation, and whereas women of every race, class, and ethnic background served as early leaders in the forefront of every major progressive social change movement. And whereas women have served our country courageously in the military, and whereas women have been leaders, not only in securing their own rights of suffrage and equal opportunity, but also in the abolitionist movement, the emancipation movement, the industrial labor movement, the civil rights movement, and other movements, especially the peace movement, which create a more fair and just society for all. And whereas, despite these contributions, the role of women has consistently been overlooked and undervalued in literature, teaching, and study of history. Now, therefore, I, David Ham, Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Goldsboro, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim the month of March 2021 as Women's History Month in the city of Goldsboro, and encourage all citizens to observe this month by participating in and supporting all festivities celebrating the proud history and many accomplishments of women. Witness my hand and the corporate seal of the city of Goldsboro, North Carolina, this 5th day of April, 2021.
Councilman Paul?
Well, first, I want to applaud Councilmember Matthews on the event you had. I would have been there. Had a baby to babysit and didn't have car seat in the right car, so I didn't want to take a chance of getting stopped en route. I also want to give a shout out to Miss Linda Jordan for her organization and outreach within her community. I had a note on my door, windshield on my car, one day for me to call immediately, and it was in reference to establishing a community cleanup initiative named Adopt a Block, which we've coined it, which will kick off a widespread litter pickup, which she's already began, and I've been receiving the pictures, with each block captain representing a grid of 4 blocks that they're responsible for cleaning up. So my first week will actually be this weekend while I'm on spring break. I'm gonna kind of get a forecast of the community to see how many bags I'm gonna need. This is gonna be something that everyone's responsible for as far as their own bags that they're gonna pick up. I recommend everyone get a grabber. There's a lot of hypodermic needles in these streets. I don't recommend anyone pick up anything that's unsafe, anything that you can grab safely to put in a bag and put it on, on the side of the road. I've actually talked to the people at Piggly Wiggly, and the manager at Piggly Wiggly is also on board with this initiative. So I think it's going to be a collaborative effort that we'll see grow weekly. And I just, I implore everyone to be safe throughout this time. Thank you.
Mr. Morway?
I just want to say a huge note of appreciation to Dr. Jim Stackhouse and all of the people at the County Health Department and the way they have organized the Busman building. And we are right now ahead of the pack. Anybody can go down there, and anybody that doesn't get a COVID shot now, it's their fault. And a lot of EMTs have worked, a lot of volunteers have worked, and they have a system down there, and it makes you proud of Wayne County. Now we got to get everybody vaccinated. That's all I have to say.
Ms. Jones?
Yes, first I would like to thank the individuals that did not give up on looking for that father and son. That really touched my heart, that they did not give up, that they continued. Thank you so much. Even though the outcome was not what we wanted it to be, at least they did not give up, and I am so thankful. Thank you. The second thing is I want to thank the individuals that have volunteered for the District 1 cleanup, and we will be meeting. I will let you know. Also, the last thing is if there are monies available for funerals, COVID funeral assistance for the families who have died, you can apply for at least $7,000 for burial. So please take advantage of that. If COVID has really changed all of our lives, and we have lost loved ones. So if you need some assistance, I do have that on my page, or I can email it to you so that you can apply.
I'm going to speak to 3 things. I'll try to make them fairly brief. First thing is to show, speak to the appreciation of our fire department and all the other agencies and volunteers, single individuals and businesses that contributed time and effort, food, whatever, to the search for the father and son that drowned last week. It was a very sad situation, but they never gave up. The rescuers never gave up searching. They searched night and day until they found their bodies. And I was down there just once. I didn't go back because they didn't need me down there in their way. But I myself, through city manager, kept in touch with the progress each day, and their efforts were, in the end, they achieved what they wanted to achieve in terms of recovering the bodies. Second thing I wanted to speak to is, which has been spoken to already tonight, litter pickup. I had an opportunity last week to speak with the base commander, and one of the things we talked about was litter. And I know all of you who have listened to Mayor Allen over the years, that's been one of his big issues as well. He stressed it time and time again. But I was reminded of the importance of that when I sat down with the base commander and he talked about litter. And he talked about a lot of other things, but it was interesting that he brought up litter as well. He thinks about it as when new arrivals come into Goldsboro, family members, new airmen or airwomen come in here, that we need to try to make as best effort we can is to keep the litter off the streets. So I encourage everyone to be conscious of that and participate in the litter pickup activities coming up. Finally, I learned today that our community lost an individual, and I don't know the details, so I'm only telling you what I heard. We lost a member of our community who's synonymous with the name Goldsboro. He's known worldwide, Mr. Wilbur Shirley. He's fought a long, hard battle. And the great thing about this is he saw the resurrection of his restaurant before he died. I know just about everyone knows the name. I don't know if everybody knows him, but he is when you think of Goldsboro, the name Wilbur Shirley is synonymous with Goldsboro. So my heart goes out to his family, and he will be missed here. That's all I have. Meeting adjourned.